Hello everyone, it's the Pace Chaser again. Welcome to another one of the model review videos that I do from time to time, and regular viewers of my channel might want to sit down because I'm actually reviewing a new model. It's not a second-hand one, it's not bought in spares or repairs condition. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing missing from it. It is a brand new model, and the model in question is the Rapido catalogue number 901034, the West Midlands style Leyland Fleetline, in delivery of Andrews of Sheffield, and there it is. This model was released in August 2024. I'm doing a review in early September 2024, so it's hot off the press. Just look at it in the box there, and I'll take it out very shortly. There's some information on the back of the box about Rapido's mission statement and the kind of thing they're aiming to do. Rapido trains a Canadian company, but they set up a British offshoot a few years ago. They've done various railway and bus items, and this is the latest in the bus series. So what I'll do, I'll take it out of the box. I'll tell you a little bit about the rail vehicle, the company Andrews of Sheffield, the name of the bus, because that's quite interesting, then we'll have a look around it and see what we've got. So I've taken out the outer box, and we've got a piece of paper there, a bit of a information sheet about the actual bus. There are some indicators in a little plastic bag there. The reason for that apparently is not all of the buses of these batches had this type of indicator on them, but this one has, so I'll be putting those on in the future. It recommends gluing them on with PVA glue, so I'll put those safely to one side, and I'll put those on separately. So there's a bit of a potted history there by a couple of the members of the Withall Transport Museum. And then there's bits and pieces there about wiring up the bus. It's got working lights, how to wire them up and operate the lighting, how to remove the body if you need to, and how to fit the indicators. And there we go. Just to mention, in case you can't work out which part of Sheffield the backdrop is, it isn't. It's Birmingham, the Bullring Centre. All of the buses that have been released in the latest tranche have got the same display box with Birmingham behind it. As well as the Andrews of Sheffield have done various West Midlands ones, both in the Passenger Transport Executive PTE era and also in the post-deregulation era. They've also done Stotts of Oldham, A1 service of Kilmarnock, and there's a Midland Fox one as well. But they've all got this same backdrop. So this model is a Leyland Fleetline. The Fleetline was first introduced by Daimler. The prototype vehicles arrived in 1960 and it went into production in 1962. By a series of takeovers and amalgamations that we don't need to go into, Daimler became part of the British Leyland Group, and in the mid-1970s Leyland moved production of the Fleetline chassis from the Daimler factory in Coventry up to the Leyland factory in Leyland, Lancashire, and at that point it was rebadged as a Leyland product. The first ones badged as Leylands were produced in January 1976, and the Fleetline continued in production at Leyland until 1981. The model that's been reproduced here is vehicle WDA 908T, which was new to West Midlands Passenger Transport Executive PTE in September 1978. It worked from Oldbury and Dudley garages, and in about 1990 it was withdrawn and sold to Andrews in Sheffield, in whose condition it's modelled here. It was withdrawn by Andrews in early 1995 and it was sold for scrap. And it was scrapped by Whiting Brothers at Ferrybridge in West Yorkshire later on in 1995. Now, Andrews were one of many companies in the Sheffield area to start running local services after deregulation. The bus scene went absolutely crazy in Sheffield after deregulation in 1986. Many operators set up to try and challenge the established operator, South Yorkshire Transport, or SYT. Too many to list really, but you had people like Sheffield and District, SUT, Sheafline, Groves, Richardson's, Yorkshire Terrier, Sheffield Omnibus and Andrews themselves. Unlike a lot of the companies that set up, Andrews weren't a new company. They were new to local bus operation, but they've been set up in the 1970s as a driving school, specialising in lorry and bus tuition, what were then known as HGV and PSV. And they also did the compulsory basic training CBT test for motorcycle riders. I believe at one time they offered car tuition as well, but I don't know where I've got that from. But in 1988 they decided to diversify and start running local bus services as well. They continued with their driving school operation, as you can see from the advertising on the side of the bus, but they began to run local bus services. They were quite successful. They challenged SYT on several different routes. In October 1992 they were acquired by the Traction Group, in other words Yorkshire Traction, and then over the years that followed, Yorkshire Traction bought other companies, including Sheffield Omnibus and Yorkshire Terrier. In late 1995 they amalgamated Andrews and Sheffield Omnibus into an operation called Andrews Sheffield Omnibus, and that must have taken them ages to come up with a name. And then a couple of years later, towards the end of the 90s, they amalgamated Andrews Sheffield Omnibus with Yorkshire Terrier, and it all became one larger Yorkshire Terrier operation. Then in December 2005 the Traction Group as a whole, so that was Yorkshire Traction, Barnsley and District, Yorkshire Terrier, Lincolnshire Roadcar and Strathspey Scottish, they were all taken over by Stagecoach. So a small part of today's Stagecoach Yorkshire operation can trace its origins back to the Andrews operation in the 1980s and 1990s. One feature of Andrews buses was that most of them had names. This one, WDA 908T, is called Duke of Darnall. Now, most of them were named after local people relevant to the Sheffield area, either celebrities or local characters. Some of them were named after random things like Humpty Dumpty, for example. A couple were named after the football teams in Sheffield, Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday. But most of them were named after people. Now, I saw Duke of Darnall when it was in service in real life, and I also remember seeing it in my bus handbook listings, and I thought it was just one of those jokey names that companies sometimes gave buses. For example, Maidstone had a coach called Maidstone Monarch. But it turned out that the Duke of Darnall was actually a real person. He wasn't actually a duke or any kind of nobleman. His real name was Harry Taylor. He was born in 1880. And he was a co-maker in a local steelworks for some time. He was deaf and non-verbal. And eventually he was sacked from the steelworks because of his disabilities. It hadn't been a problem, then suddenly it was. So he became unemployed, and he took to walking around the streets and hanging around the streets in the Darnall area, and also in Attercliffe and in Sheffield city centre. Apparently one of his favourite things to do was to direct the traffic, which didn't impress the local police. But he was always immaculately turned out. He used to wear an evening suit and either a bowler hat or a top hat. It varied from time to time, but he was always really smartly dressed, and as such he earned the nickname the Duke of Darnall, and that's who the bus is actually named after. So, enough history, let's have a look around the bus. I'm going to leave it on its base because I can't work out how to get it off, to be fair, and I don't want to damage it just yet, so I'm just going to review it on the base. So we won't see the chassis. Just from having a look around it, this is an excellent model. It really is very, very good indeed. There are, however, a couple of minor inaccuracies on it, and a couple of little things, little points, which I feel quite pedantic for bringing up. But it wouldn't be a fair review if I didn't, really. And also, it is such a good model that they stand out like a sore thumb. If it was a more bog standard model, you wouldn't notice some of the little things with it. But because it is so good generally, you do notice. But we'll have a look round and I'll show you as we go. So we start off, as always, with the front. The front dome is nicely modelled. This bus, WDA 908T, West Midlands 6908, had a bodywork by Metro Camel Wayman, MCW of Washwood Heath in Birmingham. MCW, the front domes were a slightly odd shape. They weren't quite angled and they weren't quite rounded. They were sort of a hybrid of the two, and that is well reproduced there. MCW at the time didn't put any vents in the front dome either, and as you can see it's plain as it correctly should be. The windows are really nicely modelled. They're correctly mounted in a V shape with the opening windows represented there. I'll do the interior later on, but you can see the individual handrails on top of the destination blind cover, and also that the destination blind cover flares out for the periscope as well, so that's really good detail there. One of my favourite bits of the front is this between decks panel here. Most bus bodies of the time had flat glass in the destination, as indeed most buses do now. And the problem was, when the sun shone on the front of the bus, it would reflect off and it made the destination illegible to most waiting passengers. West Midlands counteracted this by specifying that the destination glass should angle down slightly, as you can see, so it's angled. Now, I've seen various kits of these type of buses, and I've seen various die-cast models that should have that kind of destination blind, and normally they just put a flat panel on and either a bit of moulding to try and represent the angled destination, or just don't bother, just print it on. But Rapido have actually done the angled destination. I should mention, by the way, which I should have said to start with, this is not a die-cast model, they are plastic. They're injection moulded plastic. The logic being that the sides can be thinner so the flush glazed effect is easier to come by, and also they can get more detail on them, and that really has worked. So it's a plastic model. I did know that, I'd already read about it, but when the parcel came through the post, I forgot about it, went to lift it up off the table and nearly launched it through the ceiling because there's no weight to it, being a plastic model. But yeah, destination area, nicely done, as I say, angled down as it should be. It's on route 501 to Meadowhall. That was a route that Andrews operated in competition with SYT for a while. Andrews ran on it about 1993, 1994. It linked Sheffield city centre with the Meadowhall shopping centre. The main SYT route was quite famous because it used the bendy buses, the Leyland articulated vehicles. But as I say, Andrews ran on it about 1993, 1994, and it does throw up a slight anomaly which I'll come to later on. Got little vents nicely modelled above the windscreen there. I believe they were for the demisters in real life. And then the windscreen, West Midlands PTE specified quite an unusual windscreen. It wasn't very deep, as you can see. It's quite a narrow, there's not much height to it. It was also angled back and set at a V shape to try and reduce the reflections from the interior light at night time and give the driver a clearer view of the road ahead. And that's all been modelled. It's mounted at the correct angle. The wipers correctly done. The driver's side one at the top of the screen and the near side one at the bottom. Logic for that, of course, was the driver was sat quite high up, so the driver's side wiper cleared in front of the driver's eye line, and then the near side one cleared the bottom of the screen so that they could see the curb clearly through the window. Come down again, you've got little vents in the front dash there under the Duke of Darnall name. The lights are nicely modelled. They look a bit curious because they light up. This is fitted with working lighting, as are all of the releases that have been done. So the headlights, the fog lights and the side lights, I believe, all light up as well. But yeah, it looks really good. The trim line, the chrome trim line represented there as well. It actually is raised from the surface of the model as well. It's not just printed on. And the registration plate WDA 908T. So we go around to the near side. As you can see, the general size and shape of it is absolutely correct. If I zoom in, you can see the strapping over the panel joins is finely modelled. It's a lot finer than it would be on a die cast. The large hopper ventilators that West Midlands specified are modelled. You've got the lettering done there for Andrews driver training school. A lot of their buses carried adverts painted on for the driver training school. Some carried painted adverts for other companies, but as time went on, a lot of buses started to just carry normal stuck on vinyl advertisements. Got the side blind there showing route 501. I'm not quite sure if Andrews actually used a side blind or not. I think some drivers did. But one nice feature about it that you would probably miss is that the number is over to one side. And the reason for that is West Midlands PTE specified a 4-track number blind so they could show routes like 121E and things like that. Obviously, the operators after West Midlands only used up to 3 of them. So that's why it's over to the side like that. Obviously, the 4th number track will be unused and wound to blank, which it is. And it's a really good detail. They could have just printed that in the middle and you wouldn't know about it. But to do it over to one side like that is really, really good. Again, lower deck windows with the hopper vents there. The no smoking signs on the lower deck windows. At the time it was modelled, I think you can still smoke upstairs on these buses. The emergency door control moulded nicely there. Not picked out in a relief colour. Some companies picked them out in red or silver, but Andrews didn't, so that's correct. The door looks really good. The handrails individually mounted behind. They're not stuck to the door, they're behind it, so that looks realistic as well. One small point is the step. It's correctly painted black, but I saw some pictures of this model before I bought one, and I thought they hadn't actually put a step on it. I thought the doors just went down to the bottom. But they have. It's painted black, but the top surface of it there should be a kind of light grey colour, and then going round the corner as well a little bit, just onto the kind of upright bit. The bottom of it should be black. It should be a bit of light grey, and it just makes it look a bit thinner than it really would do. One little error on this model, I mentioned there were some, is that the front wheels have got a wheel embellisher or a hubcap, whatever you want to call it. Andrews didn't have them on, they had just the exposed wheel nuts. Now the first run of these vehicles that Rapido did, the Daimler version, they actually did the exposed wheel nuts on the wheel, so they have made wheels that would be correct for it. And it does stand out a little bit because Andrews, as you can see, painted the wheels bright yellow. The livery was a bit of an acquired taste, to be honest. It made the buses look a little bit like a kid's ride in a playground or outside a supermarket. But I suppose it's one of those, you either loved it or you hated it. But they did paint the wheels bright yellow, and it just highlights the error there. There's that big expanse of unrelieved yellow on the wheel embellisher. You've got the legal letter in there, nicely printed. The back wheel is lovely. You've got the broad wheel hub that Fleetline's had, and the holes in the wheel there represented as well. Rubber tyres, and the front wheel, if I go back to that, they're posable. As you can see, you can put them so it looks like it's going around the corner. It won't turn that way because of the base, but it'll turn the other way there, you can see that. The little vents on the side of the engine bustle are nicely done as well, and Rapido have picked them out. For some reason Andrews painted little yellow bands across them, and that's been represented on there, which is really nice to see. If I turn it round to have a look at the back again, the rear dome is the correct shape. The emergency window looks good, but look at this handle. This is absolutely exquisite. I've never seen anything like that on a 4mm model. It really does look like you just turn it and open the emergency exit. It's a separate piece. It's not just litho printed on as a lot of models are. It really is good, and you can see all the rivet detail there as well. Look, if you are a rivet counter, you're at home with this one because there's plenty of rivets to count. Again, the lettering is nicely printed. The back blind on these wasn't used. I've seen photos of the back of these buses and it was just painted over in black. The glass was painted over in black paint, but it's a minor little thing to sort of mention. A really good feature is that the registration plate is correctly mounted in a recess. Again, a lot of die casts would just use a flat panel and maybe print a black surround on the registration plate to make it look like it was recessed, but these have actually moulded the recess in correctly and it looks really good. I'll just try and lift it up a little bit so you can see into the cutaway. Got the lettering for the emergency engine stop, and the button is actually modelled as well. You've got the framework for the advert. Andrews painted this area in yellow, as you can see, the engine cover flap. Some of them had advertising painted on it, some of them had normal vinyl adverts stuck on, and many of them like this just had it blank, just waiting for somebody to hire the advertising space. Got a little warning notice correctly modelled on there, and then the lights, the indicators and the reversing lights are printed on, and the tail lights actually light up. The ridging around the bottom of the engine cover looks a little bit square to my eyes. It was a little bit more rounded in real life. On real Fleetlines it looked pretty much like it had been made in somebody's shed as like a spare part thing, a spare time hobby. It was a strange looking thing. It didn't look quite as regimented as this, so it is a little bit squared off. But then look at the detail there. The handle for the engine cover is a separately modelled piece rather than just being litho printed on. It's really, really good. Regarding to the offside, I'm going to stick with the engine cover area for a minute. Look at the water filler cap, absolutely amazing. Again, I never thought I'd see anything like that on a 1/76 scale bus. It looks like you could just unclip it and pour some water in, and then you go under there and it gets even better. That grille is the best I've ever seen on a 4mm scale model bus anyway. It's like nothing else I've ever seen. Look how finely detailed that is. It's amazing, it really is. But then there's a little error. If you look at photographs of the rail bus, there is a little arched cutaway just under where the emergency door is, with the exhaust pipe sticking through it. As you can see, it's not there. It's just modelled straight and flat, and it doesn't appear to be an exhaust, which is a surprising omission really. And as I say, they're only little minor niggles with it really, but the thing is, because the rest of it's so good, they stand out. You see they've missed off that little arch cutaway there and the representation of the exhaust, but then you go up to this absolutely amazing grille and water filler, and that's why you notice it. If the model was mediocre, you wouldn't kind of notice that wasn't there. Again, the general size and shape is good. The strapping over the panel lines, the rivets all there, the printing, as you can see, really well done. The motorbike looks like a motorbike. A lot of manufacturers have managed to make that look like a blob, but it doesn't. It looks realistic. You can see what it's supposed to be. Again, the no smoking signs in the window. The fuel filler is really nice. The beading around it is modelled, and again, it looks like you could just, you know, unclip it and pour some diesel into it. Please don't do that. Honestly, I don't want people sending them back to Rapido saying, look, I've poured some diesel in and things melted because it's plastic. So please don't put diesel in, but it looks like you could. And then again, the wheel embellisher on the front, which it shouldn't be. You've got the driver's side window there recessed in as it should be. That looks really, really good. And the mirrors, I didn't mention the near side mirror, but the mirrors are nicely modelled as well. I did mention the slight anomaly, and it really is a nitpicking thing, but it's just because of the route. As I say, they operated the 501 in about 1993-94. But around the time of the Yorkshire Traction takeover in 1992, they must have changed the tyre supplier, because they fitted all the buses with hub odometers, the little meter things that measure how many miles the tyres have done. Before that, they didn't have them on, and this hasn't. You wouldn't expect Rapido to put a hub odometer on. It's a small detail, so you wouldn't expect them to fit it, and it isn't fitted, but it would have been when it worked the 501. And the only reason it stands out is because the wheel's bright yellow, and obviously the hub odometers are black. So in photos you can really see it, and it's one of those, if you bought the model and you're looking at a photo thinking there's something that looks different about it, I can't place what it is. It's probably the odometer on there that you can see. But as I say, I wouldn't expect them to fit it. What I would probably have done is put it on a different route, one that it would have worked before the Yorkshire Traction takeover. Similarly, I wouldn't expect them to put the battered panel on. This bus appears to have run for about 3 years by looking at photographs, with the cab side panel sort of bent and battered. It obviously caught on something and they hadn't bothered to repair it. We go to the roof. Again, it is really, really nice. You can see sort of the ventilators at the back there. You can see the radio aerial protective cover dish correctly painted over in the same colour as the rest of the roof. And you can see there, if I hold it to the light, that the rivet lines down the roof are modelled as well, which is really, really amazing. Not just across on the panel joins, but actually down the roof as well. You can see them running along. Again, amazing level of detail on it, it really is. So we'll go to the interior. Again, really, really nice. You can see that the seats are done in a different colour to the seat backs. The floor, the staircase panelling, etc. is picked out in different colours. And look at the handrails. If we ever get 4mm scale AI figures that can walk about, they'll be able to go up and down the stairs on there without falling, because they can hold on to the handrails. Again, amazing detail, absolutely. A lovely, lovely model. Now, as I mentioned, this model, and indeed all the ones that have been released, have got working lights, or at least they have if you choose to make them work. I believe the original plan was to release, to do 2 versions of each livery, one with lights and one without, but for some reason they've issued them all with lights. Now, they don't work as it comes, because you need to buy a holder for a 9-volt battery. You know, one of the little things with like 2 press studs looking, they're about £1 or £2 apparently from various stores, and you need to wire that up to the 2 wires that come with the bus, and probably do a bit of soldering, I would say, unless you can twist the wires together. The plastic thing there is the magic wand for working the lights, should you wish to make them work. The issue with it is that the wires are permanently attached to the bus. Apparently they're not clipped in, they are permanently wired up to the bus, which means that if you take it off the base, you've got wires trailing behind it or under it that you've got to try and hide. I mean, obviously you could cut them off, but you don't really want to start cutting at models like this if you can help it. So yeah, I mean, I probably won't use the lights, to be fair. I'm not really interested in that, but as well as the external lights that we've seen, the interior lights come on as well. I've seen in other videos people wire it up, and the interior lights light up as well as the ones that I've pointed out. So we've seen the model. How much will it cost? Well, the cheapest I could find, which is you know, you won't be surprised to learn is the one I bought, was at Rails of Sheffield, and it was £46.95 plus £4 postage and packing. They do a click and collect thing, so if you live close enough to go and collect it, you can buy it online and just go and pick it up from the shop. And I'm guessing you can also go in the shop and just buy them in person as well. So £50.95 including postage. That was the cheapest I could find. They've got all of the current tranche of releases, so the West Midlands ones, the A1, the Midland Fox, etc, etc, all of them at the same price. And they've also got another Andrews of Sheffield one that's exclusive to Rails of Sheffield. That is a model of vehicle NOC 476R named Little John on Route 42. That's slightly more expensive. It's £54.95 plus postage and packing. I was tempted to get that as well, but I really can't afford it, to be honest. I could just about afford this one. Yeah, unfortunately I've had to pass on the other one. Hopefully there'll be a few available when I've managed to save up. Other shops that have got them are TMC, the Model Centre, TTC Diecast. They've also got some exclusive ones. They've got a couple of Stagecoach Stripes ones. I think there's a West Midlands driver trainer that's exclusive to them. Cheltenham Model Centre are advertising them as well. Dave's Diecast Models. All of those have got them on the website and on eBay as well. You can find them on there. Gauge Master and Frasinghall Model Railways are also advertising them on their websites, and I'm sure there are more shops advertising them that I've not mentioned. Prices vary from £46.50 up to £59.95 in all cases, with postage and packing on top. So £4 to £5 postage and packing. So you're looking at anywhere from just over £50 up to about £65. There are a couple of unpainted versions which are slightly cheaper. I think Rails have got them for about £40.50, £40.95, somewhere around there. And other suppliers £44.95, again with postage on top. And if you fancy a really expensive one, there's a Silver Jubilee version that's for sale on eBay. That's £69.99 plus £5 postage. But generally you're looking somewhere between, as I say, £50 and £65 including postage. The advice would be to get one while they're still available at reputable dealers for the sort of launch price. They are tending to sell quite quickly, but what seems to be happening quite a lot in the hobby recently is that people are buying up a load of them and then just waiting a little bit till the reputable dealers have sold out and putting them back on sites like eBay at ridiculous prices, like, you know, £100 and something. And it annoys me. I understand why they do it, because obviously they make a handsome profit out of it, but what they do is stop ordinary enthusiasts who want one and perhaps couldn't afford it when it was released from ever getting one, and it does annoy me a bit. So my advice is, if you can possibly afford to buy one at the normal price that they're at now, then go out and get one. But it really is a nice model. As I said, there's a couple of minor points that I've pointed out which hardly seem worth mentioning. It's just because it is such a great model otherwise that it's, you know, as I said, they stand out. If it wasn't a good model in the first place, you wouldn't notice that, you know, the various little idiosyncrasies, shall we say. But because it is such an excellent model, it really does look like you just get in and start it up. But yeah, I thoroughly recommend it. It really is nice. I think I'll probably keep this one in its display box, complete with Birmingham behind it, and just leave it displayed like that. But yeah, I do recommend it. It's the first Rapido trains item I've ever owned, and it won't be the last, looking at the level of detail on it. Really is nice. But as always, thank you for joining me. Take care. If you have enjoyed the video, please click the like button, because it helps more people to find it and to be able to watch it like you have. But thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.